morning, Mr. Narinesingh. What's going on, man?
Morning, Stefan. Morning, Stefan. Right. Thank you for having me.
Nice, man.
Right.
So,
So
where you want to
go ahead.
start?
Yeah.
Rights and responsibilities.
All right. So I want to jump into that topic because over the last couple of weeks, we've covered a lot of different singular topics on issues that affect the workplace. And I think even considering our last session, um, we addressed a lot of things that people perceive as very negative in the workplace. So I wanted to apply a positive spin as well and give some perspective in regards to where people's rights and their responsibilities are, right? So, when you consider rights, we understand it to be something that a person has some measure of entitlement to, something that, whatever that is established to maintain the minimum standards of human dignity and human respect for human life and human safety, etc., right? So a right would be something that you are entitled to in accordance with law and the minimum standards of human behavior. And a responsibility, Stefan, would be something that you are held accountable for. Right? Now, what you'll notice quite often, Stefan, is that people, they are very, very interested in what their rights are. They're very interested in the enforcement of that. And when it comes to the responsibility side, unfortunately, you find that people are a little bit, they're apprehensive of it. They're very guarded when it comes to accountability. So you tell somebody, what are your, if you have a discussion with somebody about what their benefits or what they're supposed to gain from having a job or being part of a business, they will happily rattle out, I should be paid well, I should be given consideration for when I have a need for leave, and if I have personal issues, it should be accommodated, and as the business grows, I should have an opportunity to benefit from the growth of that business, right? You rattle that quickly. And then you ask them, you say, well, what responsibilities would you like to carry in regards to having the ability to have these rights and sustaining that ability? Because remember, people want the right to something, but they also want it to be sustained. Right. They want to have work and etc. And you would find that they will quickly say, okay, just give them a job description. they don't want anything else. Tell me, and when they look at the job description, they're going to say to you, you expect me to do all of these things? Right. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had that experience. People look at a job description and say, look at how much things in this job description. And what quickly people ignore is that you're not expected to do all of these things at once. But in different times in the day and different times in the course of your employment, you would be expected to do these things. And employers, in my opinion, Stefan, they have struggled a lot with establishing the standards and the policies and the structures that will balance these rights and responsibilities. You see, you can't want rights and want to ignore responsibilities. And once you have responsibilities, you now become responsible as well and liable for establishing standards that will maintain rights, delivering dignity and mutual respect. So I want to tell you categorically, segue now into what our business is about. Because today I decided, as per what we would have discussed, that I really need to be clear to the public in terms of what we do and how we do it. My business is geared towards sustaining an environment where people's rights and their responsibilities can be regarded in equal measure. Right? Now, our interest is to help businesses achieve that outcome. And there's a reason why specifically businesses. You see, my years of experience, Stefan, working with, being involved in trade unionism and working with civil society groups and being also an employee for years and having experiences, both positive and negative. And I'll give you an example of something that was very positive that we had. We had negotiations occurring when I was part of Trinidad fraternity with Steelworkers Union. And in the course of that, I was part of the team. I mean, I wasn't directly and only responsible. I want to be clear about that. But I was part of the team that succeeded in negotiating almost 100% increase for certain benefits. And in this day and age, even back then, 10 years ago, that was very much unheard of. And it wasn't because of protests and threats and anything. It was because of mutual respect in a negotiation process. So I'm saying that to say that when rights and responsibilities are approached with in a rational and responsible way by both the employer and the employee, the outcome is always in the best interest of all parties concerned. So we, in our business capacity, coming out of all of those experiences and recognizing, Stefan, that if you do not assist the business or support the business in creating the right environment with the right tools and resources, then what happens, Stefan, is that business fails and everybody suffers, right? So the goal of our business is to help business owners establish the best standards of policies and procedures. Now, why? Why do we need to have all of this structure? Why do we need to have all of these policies? People say to me all the time, I have been in business for years and I have hired persons, they've come asking for a job, I've given them a job, and we've had an agreement for a salary and they work. Well, I want you to go back just a little bit, if you and the viewers could remember, a couple of segments ago, I mentioned that an employee is susceptible to remembering what they feel and what is convenient to them, and they will lie. That it is not something
Well, yeah,
we we
they fabricate. Yes.
I would say it, I say it out like that. And here's what people are offended, some people are offended, and some people feel that, well, no, it should not be. But it is like saying that, when we have cricket, rain should not fall. It's like taking a position like that and thinking that would rationalize. Right? Oh, I apologize for my lighting. I know it's a little, we didn't get a chance to set up all right. I know it's dark.
You're lighting good, man. You lighting good, and Chris? Lighting good,
But
man. Or yourself,
the truth
man.
is, I are Black Indian, so
Well, we're good, do.
it is what it is, right? So the point is that we when we do not create when you do not create clarification and transparency with clearly defined documentation for what the relationship is about, employees will make it up as they see fit. And that is why the onus is on the employer to create these systems. And we have been, I mean, a lot of people have reached out to us with questions, and we've made the effort to answer them without, some of these people, I understand, they're not trying to incur a cost, so they just want to get some answers, and we've made an effort. But the truth is, we can't answer everybody like that. Minimum standards of accountability for an employee's presence on the job. That means coming to work and coming to work on time. And Stefan, we provide employers with solutions for that. Technological systems and structures for documentation in addressing when people do not conform with it, or when they have confusion with it, or when they lie about it as well, right? And then the second thing is behavior on the job. When somebody is part of your work environment, the standards, policies, and procedures that will guide an employee in regards to how they behave. I'll give you a quick example in just to emphasize that before I go to the third point. An employee reported to our work environment some years ago, and when the employee came to work, there were two other chairs next to his desk, and he would routinely take one of the chair and put his foot up on it. Right? So he would just, just like stick his foot out and rest it on it. And some of us do that. And one day, nobody never said anything to him. It was just two extra chairs. And one day they hired another person. So the other person came and sat in a chair next to him. Remember, there were two chairs. Now there's one chair.
Right.
He routinely continued putting his foot on the other chair, like put his foot up. So he would just rock back and rest his foot on it. Not literally his shoe, but I just want to make people understand the concept of it. He was kind of putting his leg up on the chair, right? So a couple of weeks into the job, employees and the other employees on the probation evaluation, the employee says, they ask the employee, they say, well, can you tell us, do you have all the tools and resources to do your job? And the employee says, yes, because that's a routine question that you should always start an evaluation with, right?
Okay.
And then they ask, are you comfortable in your work environment with the interaction of the people around you? And the employee says, well, yes, I am. Okay, and let's now talk about how your job is going, how you're performing your duties. And the person says, yeah, but wait, hold on. Before we go off this, I want to tell you all, there's one thing I did not get, and I want I don't know if you all can arrange it because I noticed the other employee have it. And they say, what? The person said, well, a spare chair. And the employee said, the evaluator said, well, what do you mean a spare chair? He said, well, the other employee have a chair to pop his foot, and I want one too.
Ah, right.
No. To the evaluator, that was a preposterous request. Like, are you insane? What are you talking about? And the employee proceeded to explain, well, since I've been here, this employee has another chair and he's put his foot up and to help him relax and thing. And I think I should get a chair as well. I think it's a very comfortable position to be in. And when they started to go into it, and they had to address the other employee, he ended up with two employees who are upset. Here's why. The first one had to stop putting his foot up on the chair because that is not what the chair is for, and he was not supposed to do it. And the second one felt, well, the only reason they stop it is because they don't want to give him a chair. Now, when you look at that, where did it start? First, it started with the company not addressing the employee who was putting up his foot on his chair.
Right.
On the chair. The second thing is the company also did not clarify, apart from the enforceability, the worker said nobody never told me that when I home I put my foot up. That's why sofas has come with a footstool.
Right.
And they said, well, does it look like a footstool? And he was arguing, and listen, the rationalization of it did not exist. I mean, I'm sure the viewers can relate to the irrationality of it. But do you know that in that moment, in that conversation, that was rational? And I'm saying to you that when you have a workplace, if you do not have clear parameters, some of the more of how behavior should be, because we're on behavior, what happens is people will bring their personal and private behavior into the workplace and enforce it in your culture. Right. So a simple protocol we have built in into our policies for our HR manual is companies' resources and provided must be used in accordance with the intent for which they are provided. And you are not to change or enhance or otherwise. There's an M word for that when you
manipulate.
Well, not manipulate, I remember there's a modify, sorry. Modify to suit your personal preference unless it is authorized by management. And people take that simple term for granted because that term covers everything. In other words, you can come to work and just rearrange your desk, people, or change around your office, or take borrowed stuff from other people's desks, things like that. Because it is clear the company has established that. And when, God forbid, something like that escalates into actual conflict, the truth is the statutory bodies, the regulatory bodies are going to say, did you have a clear procedure? And that is the nature of today's world. Now let's go to the third thing. Right. It ties in performance. So you have attendance, presence on the job, which is attendance and punctuality. Right. You have behavior, that's the other thing, right? And then the third thing is performance. Performance. The actual execution of the duties and responsibilities. And when you don't have things like a job description, people are paranoid about having a job description. They say, if I put a job description, the person is not going to do anything else. That doesn't make sense. You hire the person for a particular role, right? And you should be able to clarify what the association of that role will be as it correlates to the process flow of a business. What's a simple language? Stefan, you're the host of this show. And if a standard job description would be to engage and coordinate the information and discussion that occurs on this live program.
Right.
Then it might have something, they say, okay, Stefan, you just set up an online session with Narinesingh. And you say, oh, my job description never say to use Zoom.
Right. Understood.
But the employer should be rational enough to not go crazy and say, so I need to write Zoom in order for you to be part of your job. And the employer should instead go to this simple neutral position. The setting up of Zoom directly correlates to the coordination of the show. And therefore, I don't need to read, write, and spell for that to be part of your job description, because by virtue of the fact that it is associated with the show, it is associated with your job, and it becomes your responsibility.
Yeah.
So that simple argument, that simple explanation to the employee absolutely clarifies anything. Now, if the employer cannot correlate it to the duties, then obviously the employer is trying to adduce. And there's where the gray area is with some employers. But the point of it is that job description should not be something that you should fear. And then, tied in with duties and responsibilities, you must have defined systems for measuring the success outcome of an employee. How would you determine that they have performed their job well? And those three things, Stefan, in simplicity, do you know a lot of people mix that up? Some people think behavior is performance. Some people think attendance is behavior. A lot of people think that, right? So those three things are just a small snippet of where employers mess up when it comes to policies and procedures. And this is where we, as a service provider in the industry, as a matter of fact, what I've just given you is actually our starting point for how we support businesses. We give them technological solutions, we give them policies and procedures, and we guide them through the steps. We actually take responsibility as well for the steps in handling situations that escalate into conflict, where employees are in disagreement or in contention with what the employer has established, or in situations where the employer has failed to establish it and the employer has gone off the reservation. Right? Now, I don't know how much time do we have, Stefan?
Chris, what's the time looking like? Yeah, but just to your point, I have heard. I mean, I know people that they just call them Mr. So and so, and they just call them Mr. or Mrs. So and so after the company they're working for, because in their opinion they just go over and beyond in terms of their job description. If saying that is terminology that you use. And I've heard other people say, boy, I don't know, they don't pay me, I'm not doing nothing, pay me to do, and that kind of, things like that now. But really and truly, if you are to be assessed, you are assessed. Part of your assessment is based on how far you're willing to go for the company that you're working with, the company that pays you. Because at the end of the day, there is a salary coming at the end of the day, right? Now you might not you might do work that is outside of your I don't want to say job description, but you might end up doing work. I know people that do work for other people in companies, right?
Yeah.
And I have often said, like, my cousin is one of them, right? My nephew is one of them too. They just have this thing about them that, look, I will get you my I get you my work. Look, it had nothing to do. What we're doing over here, and they would, assist. So sometimes you look at it and you're saying, but you're doing.
I want to say something about that. Let me
you're getting paid X amount of money.
First off, Stefan,
to provide a service or to do.
I think I lost your audio.
Right, you have me now.
Yeah, I have you now. Right.
Right, but I lose you now. Right. That's how go ahead talk.
Yeah. So I want to I want to provoke you a little bit with that.
Yes.
So check this out. In the first instance, the people who try to argue that they are not doing anything more than what they are doing, um, that is not an indication, in my opinion, of a person who has a proper understanding of their role and how it correlates with the business flow process of our organization, and then how it comes back to benefit them in the long run. In my opinion, they have disconnected themselves from where the rights and responsibilities lie in sustaining the business that feeds the employment opportunity that they have. And they have taken a position of ignorance in regards to the bigger picture. Now, the people, in the first instance, Stefan, a person cannot do two people's job. That is a myth.
Right.
Let me explain why I'm saying that. A person has a maximum capacity, a person, as a human being, right? And as a human being, you cannot get up tomorrow morning and become two human beings. I'll give you an example. If I were to tell you, Stefan, normally two people is push this car out of this garage, and I want you to push it out by yourself. There's a high probability that if you try, you might fail or injure yourself. There's a high probability, right? And it's using a real crass example. Now, I want you to imagine in situations where workflow processes are going on. What happens is that if you have two people, let me give a more connecting example. Imagine you have a workflow process where somebody does package something and then they hand it to somebody to put it in a box. And the person gets it, puts it in a box, folds it up, and carries it to somebody else. So in a day, a person who's packaging the something could do 10. And the person who packed in the box could do 10. And then it gets to the other person. Now, let's say a person stays home or they're absent or they're not there. And you say, I say to you, Stefan, I want you to handle that area today because we only have one person. The first thing in your head, I doing how to do two people work. But here's the truth. Because you have to package it and then put it in the box, it means that you are occupying one role and then you're going to move to the next role. The truth is, there's a probability, Stefan, that you're going to end up doing 5 boxes that day because you are taking the time, the 8 hours that was allocated to getting 10 done in this section and 10 done in the other section, and now you're applying. You didn't follow me?
Yeah.
No.
You're
following me, right?
Hold on. Yeah. Because because that's a good point you make. It all boils down to time. I could get 10 boxes done doing one thing in 2 hours. Let me say it take me 2 hours. But if I have to fill in for the other person, I am only going to complete what I could complete within that 2 hour period.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And what has happened is employees get into the argument that I should not have to go and pack in the box as well as package. They get into that argument and they miss the point. Here's the point. The other person is not there for whatever reason. And if we don't package any boxes at all, the pay that you're supposed to get for packaging the package, you mightn't get it because we sell nothing. They miss that point. Now, here's the next thing that comes out of that. Quite often, what an employer might identify is that, hey, this person pushed themselves and they were able to do 7 boxes, packaging and filling it in the box. And I have 2 people doing it and only getting 10 boxes for the cost of 2 employees in this role. But when one person doing it, I getting 7. Yeah. And what people now, the employers now, without rationalizing it or going into the meat of why that situation is existing, they now say, you know what, let one person do that job because it's more productive in terms of time and cost. And it affects the employee negatively because the employee feels now, I used to have a person next to me helping me in this process, and now I am asked to do it alone. And that mentality is what gets in the way of efficiency standards being developed. What should have happened is the employer should have made the effort now to find out why am I only getting 10 boxes? Maybe I'm supposed to be getting 12 or 15 when the 2 persons are there. Quite often, employers themselves are the ones that cause the inefficiencies to become practice. And then when employees get accustomed with that, they take a position that, remember, Stefan, we are naturally lazy, you know. By nature, we are lazy. We designed to be lazy.
Why you
And
say that?
I can prove it to you. When you get up this morning to arrange yourself for this show, there was a warm spot on your bed that was calling you, boy. The warm spot
Yes.
says, stay now, Stefan. Here, nice. You have a few more minutes. And you and I and about 300,000 or 400,000 people this morning in Trinidad and Tobago, that warm spot called everybody. And do you know it had some people who responded? And they're still in that warm spot? And here's the point. There's a point. Our
We have
bodies
about
are
a minute. We have about a minute. Go ahead.
right. So I'll close it. The point is that comfort is the thing that steals that puts us in that place. And discomfort, anything that pushes a need for us to do more or exert more, is always seen as negative.
So we're talking about the
But work,
comfort zone here now.
yeah, but work. The truth
Because
is, work is also supposed to be hard.
but you mentioned I know we only have a few seconds, but as you mentioned comfort and the comfort zone, there are people that will never know their true potential if they stay in that comfort zone. So if you
Correct.
continue to just want to pack 10 boxes one way, you're not going to discover the potential that you have to do the two jobs, or maybe even to be promoted to do something else. Because
Oh,
you're
but
just
you want
stuck
a
in that
raise.
cycle. Huh?
But you want a raise. But you want a raise.
But you want more money.
So we close on that one. You want more money.
Yeah. All right. So I tell you what, we just about out of time.
Right?
Wait now, we're going on there. All right, it kind of frozen. What is going on? Just now, let me just get back.
Yeah, we had a little freeze.
Right, we had a little freeze, but we're good to go. All right, well, we're out of time, so we got to wrap things up. But good conversation this morning as usual. And next week I'll see you again via Zoom, and then be back in studio
Yes.
the following Thursday. All right. So
All right,
take it easy,
myself.
man.
Good morning.
Yeah, man.